Welcome to HDTV. You now rocking with your boy. Now, I'm getting sick and tired of you lebrownie fans. You lebrownie fans and people are trying to say Michael Jordan played with a stacked team. Michael Jordan was the team. And after the last dance, I didn't like him because he's a scumbag, but Michael Jordan, if it wasn't for him, Scotty and these guys wouldn't have any rings. Now, everybody wants to say that his teams were stacked. Before Scotty got with the Chicago Bulls, Scottie Pippen, they were losing, but they were getting to the playoffs. Scotty, I believe, came in 86, 87. Let's see. Let's see. Right. Scottie Pippen came 87, 88. He was a rookie. Now, Michael Jordan, when he came in, let's see when it was. Michael Jordan came in the 84-85 season. Now, everybody's trying to tell me that he's had stacked teams. Let's look at this team he was on. He had Dave Corzine, which was a center out of DePaul, Quentin Daly, Chris Engler, Sidney Green, Dave Greenwood, Rod Higgins, who was his best friend, Steve Johnson, Caldwell Jones, Charles Jones, Wes Matthews, Jawan Oldham, Ennis Watley, and of course Orlando Woodridge, who was very underrated. Now, when we look at the totals of the stats, these were the totals. Michael Jordan was averaging points per game. Let's see. Okay. Michael was averaging 28.2 points per game. Orlando Woodridge was averaging 22.9. Quentin Daly was averaging 16 points per game. Now, Michael was averaging 28.2 points per game, 2.4 steals, 0.8 blocks, 3.5 turnovers. Total rebounds, he had 6.5. From the free throw line, he was 85%. From the three-point line, he was 17%. Now, he played all 82 games. Orlando Woodridge was averaging 23 points per game, 0.8 steals. Jordan averaged 2.4 steals and 5.9 assists. Woodridge averaged he averaged 2 assists a game and 6 rebounds per game. And free throws, he was 79%. Quentin Daly was averaging 16 points per game, and Steve Johnson was averaging 10 points per game. So those were your guys. So it was 4 players, including Mike, that was in double figures. That team got to the first round and they lost. They finished 39, no, excuse me, they finished 38-44. They were expected to go 39-43. And they lost in the first round to the Bucks 1-3. Now, let's go to the following season. 85-86. This was the season in the first round where he dropped 60 on the Celtics. On this team, you had Gene Bakes, Ron Brewer, Tony Brown, Dave Corzine, Quentin Daly, George Gervin was on the team, Sidney Green, Rod Higgins, Michael Holton, Kyle Macy, Billy McKinney. They picked up Charles Oakley. He's a rookie. Jawan Oldham, John Paxson, Mike Schreck, and Orlando Woodridge. Now, per game, Orlando was averaging 21 points per game, 3 turnovers, and 0.7 steals, 3 assists, 5 rebounds, and from the free throw line, he was at 79. Sidney Green had 14 points he was averaging. Gene Bakes had 11. George Gervin had 16 points per game. Michael had 23. Quentin Daly had 16. Now, that year they were swept by the Celtics in the first round. This was before Scottie Pippen. They were making the playoffs. They were very formidable. Now, 96-87. 96-87. They had Gene Bakes, Mike Brown, Fred Cofield, Steve Coulter, Dave Corzine, Earl Curtin, Darren Dave, Pete Myers, Charles Oakley, John Paxson, Ben Poquette, Brad Sellers, Sedell Threat, Elston Turner, Granville Waiters, and Perry Young. This season, per game, Michael was averaging 37, so he made a big jump. Then they had Oakley with 15 a game and Paxson with 11. So he went from having 4 or 5 guys double figures to just 3, including himself. Year before, he had 4, including himself, in double figures. They had 5, I believe, last year. This team here lost in the first round to Boston again. I believe that was the season he had his 60. Now, 97-88. You had Mike Brown, Dave Corzine, Artis Gilmore, Horace Grant, he was a rookie this year, Charles Oakley, John Paxson, who's still around, Scottie Pippen, he was a rookie, Brad Sellers, Rory Sparrow, Sedell Threat, Elston Turner, Sam Vincent, Granville Waiters, and Tony White. This team here, Jordan had 35 he was averaging. Oakley had 12. Vincent had 13. And Corzine had 10. So they had 4 players in double figures. From the previous year, they had 3. This is not a stacked team. Now, let's go to 87. Hold on, let me see something. All right, in 87 to 88, they won the first round against Cleveland 3-2. That's when Michael hit that last second shot. And then they lost in the Eastern Conference semifinals to the Pistons 4-1. Okay? Now, let's go to the next year. That team wasn't stacked. So now let's go to the next year. 88 to 89. He had Bill Cartwright, who just got at it, Dave Corzine, Charles Davis, Horace Grant, Jack Haley, Craig Hodges, who was a killer from the three, Anthony Jones, Ed Neely, Paxson, Will Perdue, Scottie Pippen, Dominic Presley, Brad Sellers, Sam Vincent, and David Wood. Now, this season, Michael averaged 32.5, which was 33. This is the year he almost averaged a triple-double. He had 8 total rebounds and 8 assists. He was playing point guard this season. And he made Horace Grant better, who jumped to 12. Previously, I believe he was at 6 or 7, if that. Pippen was at 14 points. Cartwright was at 12. And Hodges was at 10. So they had 5 players in double figures, including Mike, with 33 he was averaging. This year, they got better. They basically beat the Cavs in the first round. They won the semifinals against the Knicks 4-2, and they lost to the Pistons 4-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, that team wasn't stacked. Since you guys want to say it was stacked, it wasn't. Now, 89 to 90. 89 to 90. Okay. They had B.J. Armstrong, Cartwright, Charles Davis, Horace Grant, Jack Haley, Craig Hodges, Stacey King, Clifford Lett, Ed Neely, John Paxson, Will Perdue, Scottie Pippen, and Jeff Sanders. Now, this year, Mike was averaging 34 a game. Pippen was averaging 17. He went up. Horace was at 13. Cartwright was at 11. And Paxson was at 10. So they had 5 guys in double figures, including Michael Jordan. Excuse me. This year, they won the Eastern Conference first round 3-1 against the Bucks. They won the semifinals 4-1 against the Sixers. And they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Pistons, who were the back-to-back champions, 4-3. That team wasn't stacked. Now, let's go to 90 to 91. Okay, 90 to 91. This is the year they won their first championship. B.J. Armstrong, Cartwright, Grant, Hodges, Hobson, King, Livingston, Paxson, Perdue, Pippen, and Williams. Now, Jordan was averaging 32 a game. Pippen had 18 a game, and then Grant had 13 a game. 3 guys in double figures. And they basically won the Eastern Conference first round 3-0 against the Knicks. They won 4-1 against the Sixers in the semifinals. They beat the Pistons, which they basically robbed the Pistons that series 4-0. And they beat the Lakers when they didn't have James Worthy. And that's when Magic was going through his HIV. And they won that one 4-1. That team wasn't stacked. Now, we're going to go to the next season. 91 to 92. Okay. You have Armstrong, Cartwright, Grant, Hanson, Hodges, Hobson, King. You have B.J. Armstrong, Bill Cartwright, Horace Grant, Bob Hanson, Craig Hodges, Dennis Hobson, Stacey King, Cliff Livingston, Chuck Nevitt, John Paxson, Will Perdue, Scottie Pippen, Mark Randall, Roy Sparrow, and Scott Williams. This year, Mike averaged 30 a game. Pippen finally hit the 20 mark, which was 21. Horace Grant was at 14, so they still had three guys in double figures. That wasn't a stacked team. They won the Eastern Conference first round to the Heat 3-0. They beat the Knicks 4-3 in the semifinals, which they robbed the Knicks that series. The finals, they beat the Cavs 4-2, and then they beat the Blazers 4-2. That team wasn't stacked. Now, let's go to the next season, which was 92-93. And I think this was the last season before he retired because his dad was killed. Now, you have B.J. Armstrong, Ricky Bladden, Bill Cartwright, Joe Courtney, JoJo English, Horace Grant, Stacey King, Rodney McRae, Ed Neely, John Paxson, Will Perdue, Scottie Pippen, Trent Tucker, Darrell Walker, Corey Williams, and Scott Williams. This year, you had four guys in double figures. You had Mike at 33, Pippen at 19 a game, Horace with 13, and Armstrong at 12. They basically swept the first two rounds against the Hawks 3-0 and then the Cavs 4-0. Then they won the Eastern Conference Finals 4-2 to the Knicks, which they screwed the Knicks in that series. And the Suns, they beat them 4-2. That team wasn't stacked. Now, I'm going to skip the 2 years. Let's go to the 72-10 season where they set the record. Now, this team, you had Randy Brown, Judd Bushler, Jason Caffey, James Edwards, Jack Haley, Ron Harper, Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc, Luke Longley, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, John Sally, Dickie Simpkins, Bill Wennington. Now, this team, you had three guys in double figures, which was Michael with 30, Pippen with 19, and of course, Tony Kukoc with 13 coming off the bench, and he started at the end of the second half. Rodman, which people forget, won that series that year against the Sonics because he was averaging 15 rebounds a game. Okay? Now, they basically swept the first round against the Heat 3-0. They won the second round against the Knicks 4-1. They swept the Magic 4-0 and they beat the Sonics 4-2. That team wasn't stacked. They had finally gotten another superstar with Mike, which was Rodman. Even though Rodman didn't average a lot of points, he was a great defender. Now, 96-97. Okay? You have Randy Brown, Judd Bushler, Jason Caffey, Bison Dele, Ron Harper, Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc, Luke Longley, Robert Parrish, Scottie Pippen, Rodman, Dickie Simpkins, Matt Steigenga, and Bill Wennington. Does that sound like a stacked team to you? No. Michael was averaging 30 that year. Pippen got back to 20, which was the second time in his career, or third, I believe. And then you had Tony Kukoc with 13. Rodman was at 16 rebounds. So they basically swept the Bullets first round 3-0. They beat the Hawks 4-1 in the semifinals. They beat the Heat 4-1 in the Eastern Conference, and they won the finals 4-2 against the Jazz. That team wasn't stacked. The Jazz had a better team than they did. Now, this was Michael Jordan's last season. On this team, you had Keith Booth, Randy Brown, Judd Bushler, Scott Burrell, who was soft, Jason Caffey, Ron Harper, Steve Kerr, Joe Klein, Tony Kukoc, Rusty LaRue, Luke Longley, Pippen, Rodman, Dickie Simpkins, David Vaughn, and Bill Wennington. This season, you had four guys in double figures in scoring, which was Michael at 29, Pippen at 19, Kukoc at 13, and then Luke Longley at 11. Luke Longley doesn't get any praise, which I don't understand why. He was decent. And then Rodman had 15 rebounds. So he was basically averaging like 15, 16 rebounds during those 3 years. That's why the Bulls were great, because he was a defensive guru. Won the Eastern Conference 3-0 against the Nets. Won the NBA Eastern Semi-Conference Finals 4-1 against the Hornets. They beat the Pacers 4-3, where they cheated them by having Jalen Rose kicked out Game 6, and that helped them win 7, and they almost lost the 7. And then in the NBA Finals, they beat the Jazz 4-2. Now, all of this stuff I've said to you basically is letting you know Michael Jordan never played on a stacked team. LeBron James, if you want to be honest, his teams were better than Michael's teams. They were. They were better. You guys want to keep saying this guy had a stacked deck. Michael played with what was given to him. He didn't have the power LeBron had, where he could put people on his team and trade people. They didn't give him that power. Ronsdorf is a prejudiced piece of crap, and they weren't going to let Michael ruin their franchise by picking who they wanted. Now, with that being said, can we stop this crap by saying he had a stacked team? No. LeBron James is the only one who's had a stacked team. The only one. Everybody else didn't have a stacked team. Michael played with the guys and made those guys better. Each year, Pippen got better because Michael taught him how to play the game. Pippen is a great number 2 option. He's probably the best number 2 option in history, outside to me of Kobe Bryant. So all of this stuff you guys are saying, it's irrelevant. I've debunked the notion that Michael had a stacked team. Michael played with a group of role players who played their role. He didn't get a superstar type player until Dennis Rodman came in 96, and that still wasn't a stacked team. So stop this crap by saying Michael had a stacked team. His team was, no, it wasn't. Michael made his team better. So again, thank you for listening. Please leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know, how do you feel about it? Do you feel Michael's team was stacked? I don't believe it was. Do you feel Michael is the greatest of all time? To me, he's not. He's not in my top 5. You know, he's not. So if you guys feel he is, let me know why, and tell me what you think. Please be respectable. Like, comment, and share this video. Please subscribe. Hit the bell, the notification bell, and please, when you hit it, select all so you can get upcoming videos in the future. Thank you for listening, and we're out. Live boy.